Hello, you have Brian and Derek Boer here of Boer Insurance Group. Thank you for joining us for your 2025 insurance checkup. Now, before we dive in, first of all, thanks for working with us. We sure appreciate it. We're honored and privileged here to manage Boer Insurance Group for the benefit of all of our clients here in Michigan, mostly in West Michigan. We appreciate your trust. We appreciate your friendship, and we are always here to help with anything that you might need. So don't hesitate to reach out to either of us or to our team. We're honored to work with you. We're here to help you, and we certainly value our relationship. Now, the insurance industry, of course, over the past few years has been awfully turbulent. Our team has been growing, and we've been working really hard to provide advice and forward-looking service, proactive feedback to our clients to help make sure that we're helping our clients understand what's happening in the industry, what's happening on their insurance plan, and how to align things properly moving forward. Most of that, we're hoping, is behind us at this point. The insurance industry is showing signs of hopefully leveling off and starting to turn the corner. We want to focus today on what do we expect in 2025 and what does typical coverage look like. So we're going to walk through a typical insurance plan, which includes auto, home, and umbrella insurance with some high-level feedback, a couple of finer details, and then, of course, give you the chance to reach out to our team with any questions or any changes they might like to consider or need to make so that we can help you manage that moving forward. Now, Derek, I'm going to share my screen right here and we're going to dive into this bad boy. Now, we're going to be looking at an insurance plan with auto owners insurance. Of course, we work with a variety of insurance companies. So your insurance portfolio might be with a different insurance company, but from a high level, the coverages are going to look very similar and they're going to be named something very comparable. So this should be relevant and helpful whether your insurance plan is with Auto Owners Insurance or with another insurance company that we work with. So on the auto insurance side of things, big ticket items, Derek, that we always want to point out here. Just from an administrative standpoint, the policy term is going to be shown up here. Now, this is a 6-month auto insurance policy that we're going to look at. Many auto insurance policies today are on a 12-month term, meaning the premium and the policy is all based on 12 months. You're going to see your name up here. You're going to see your mailing address up here. That's probably your home. But some clients have a mailing address that differs from their garaging address or their home address. But most of the time, that's going to be your home address there. You're going to see the annual premium or the 6-month premium in this situation shown up here. This all items is going to indicate any changes to that premium based on a coverage change, a deductible change, or in this situation, applying the paid in full discount to the policy. Now, top line coverage, Derek. What would you say is the most important coverage in any auto insurance policy?
Yeah, in my mind, it's the personal injury protection coverage. That's the one that changed back in 2020. We did a ton of work with our clients back then on it. I think everyone got a little bit tired of hearing about personal injury protection coverage, but it's probably the most important coverage on an auto insurance policy. And so that's why we emphasized it, with our clients and hopefully encouraged them to get a deep understanding of that coverage and how it applies, and then make the right decision for their family based on their own coverage needs.
And this coverage here is for your injuries, your family's medical expenses. If God forbid you are hurt badly in a car accident, you want to see unlimited here on your policy. About 93% of our clients do have that coverage at unlimited. That's, of course, the best choice available. That means that the insurance company is on the hook for your lifetime of care if any of you are hurt in a car accident, typically with no copay, no deductible, and no coverage limit. That's as good as it gets, and that's what most of us want to have on our policy. The flip side to that, of course, what if you are not hurt in a car accident, but my goodness, somebody else was? Derek, tell us what this residual bodily injury coverage does.
Yeah, residual bodily injury, it's sometimes referred to just as bodily injury or in some cases bodily injury liability. But that coverage is what's available to pay a lawsuit that's filed against you because someone else was hurt or killed in an accident and you were the cause of it. You don't have to be 100% of the cause of it, but if you had any percentage of cause in that accident, someone in Michigan can sue you for lost income, pain and suffering, a decrease in the quality of their life, uncovered medical expenses if they're not someone that kept an unlimited amount of personal injury protection coverage, and this is going to be the amount available on a per person basis is the first number, and on a per accident basis is the second number to pay that lawsuit that someone files against you.
So on this policy we're looking at here, this client would have $1 million of lawsuit protection to try to settle a lawsuit if something went wrong on the road and they were being sued because of it. That could be pulling out in front of a motorcyclist. It could be not seeing a pedestrian or a bicycler or, sliding through an intersection on black ice. Any of that that led to someone else's injuries could trigger a lawsuit. And this coverage here sets the amount of coverage on the table to try to settle that lawsuit on your behalf. So first primary part of an auto insurance policy here is coverage for your injuries, your medical expenses, your care if you or any family members are hurt in a car accident. Down here, what if you weren't hurt, or maybe you were, but somebody else was hurt as well, and they are filing a lawsuit against you? The third piece of the puzzle, of course, is the physical damage coverage. And this is for coverage for damage to your vehicle. You're typically going to see comprehensive and collision coverage, both shown here. And next to that, you're going to find a deductible, which is typically somewhere between 100 and 1,000. Now, if you see low numbers there, like 100, 250, even 500, one thing that we are seeing clients do, and we're generally suggesting, is looking at higher deductibles, especially on auto insurance. $1,000 deductible, 5 years used to be considered a very high deductible on an auto insurance policy. But in today's environment, that's very typical, right? It's not worth sweating the small stuff. It's not worth filing the small claims these days. So a lot of times, bump that deductible up to 1,000. Yeah, it takes a little bit of a steel stomach to accept a high deductible like that, but it eliminates the temptation to file those small claims that we probably shouldn't be filing anyway, and it's going to reduce your auto insurance premium going forward. So if you can tolerate a little bit of a higher deductible, it's worth considering. So if you see low deductibles here for comprehensive or collision coverage, something you may want to consider is beefing those up and taking advantage of that new sweet spot in the industry.
Brian, which of those coverages is my windshield coverage?
Windshield coverage is going to be comprehensive coverage right here. So if you do elect for a $1,000 deductible for comprehensive coverage, you're probably not going to have coverage for a windshield. Most windshield claims are somewhere between $600 and $900. But insurance companies didn't used to care about windshield claims because they used to be $200 or $300 5 or 6 years ago. Today, some of the newer cars have windshields that cost $1,500, $1,600, $1,800. And so now they count as a claim. So one thing you may want to consider is, hey, if you've got a vehicle that's, not sustaining a bunch of windshield damage, doesn't seem to have a magnet in the front windshield and picks up stone chips all the time, you might want to just accept a higher deductible and say, hey, I'm not going to worry about that because a lot of times that's going to squeeze the best value going forward.
And Brian, if I see comprehensive and collision coverage for my vehicle, does that mean it's got full coverage?
That's what people refer to. Yep.
Okay. And if
Yep.
I don't see it, would that mean it's PLPD?
Exactly right.
Okay.
Yep.
Got
Yep.
it. Cool.
And nothing wrong with PLPD coverage, right? You can have unlimited personal injury protection coverage here. You could have $1 million of lawsuit protection here. But if your vehicle is a 1993, Honda Civic that's not worth much, maybe you just have PLPD. That's fine. No comprehensive, no collision coverage. That doesn't mean you have bare bones or have, bottom of the barrel type of insurance. It just means that you haven't chosen to have coverage for damage to that vehicle. Nothing wrong with that in the right situation. Same coverage here on vehicle 2 on this policy. We're not going to go through those specifics again, but your typical auto insurance policy will consolidate all vehicles onto one single policy, which tends to be cost effective and is more convenient. So down here, final comment, the driver list here. Licensed drivers in the home should all be disclosed in this driver list. Each insurance company will disclose drivers just a little bit differently, but make sure that if someone moved into your home or moved out of your home or, junior just earned their driver's license, make sure that that's reflected on your insurance policy so that you don't run into any coverage issues with a driver.
Brian, do I need to add someone like, a friend that's going to be visiting for the weekend, or maybe I've got a niece that lives in California and she's going to be visiting over the holidays and going to be driving my vehicle for just, a couple days. Do I need to add somebody like that to my policy as a driver?
Typically not.
Okay.
Most insurance policies, especially the type of insurance companies that we work with, their coverage, the auto insurance coverage will extend to that friend or that niece who's visiting and you're using the vehicle just temporarily with your permission. You're not going to run into an issue in that type of scenario.
Okay, cool.
Derek, to the home insurance side of things. Again, set up very similar to the auto insurance from a high level here. You're going to find the policy term shown here. It's almost always going to be an annual term on the home insurance side of things. You're going to see your name. You're going to see your address shown here. You're going to find the location address shown right here. So if you have a home and a cottage, or if your mailing address doesn't match the home that you're insuring, this address here is the address of the home that is being insured on the policy. You're going to find the premium on the policy shown right here. That's the annual premium in almost every situation that you will find on a home insurance policy. So the coverage side of things. Top line coverage on a home insurance policy is always going to be this dwelling coverage shown here. On this policy here, you see 633,000 of dwelling coverage. That is the coverage on the policy for rebuilding the home brand new. You'll see this home was built in 1955. This would be not replacing the home, not buying the home next door or the one down the street. This would be if you had to rebuild the home brand new because a fire or a tornado or a giant falling tree were to completely destroy the home and it had to be rebuilt from the ground up.
So if I go and I look on Zillow and I see 500,000, is there a reason that there's a difference between the market value of my home on Zillow and what the dwelling coverage is? I'm guessing based on your description a few moments ago is that this is the coverage that's going to rebuild it brand new with new materials at today's labor rates, which of course might be different than the market value. And I'm guessing the market value is also going to incorporate the value of the land. So in some cases, my market value might be way above my dwelling coverage if I'm, lakefront or I've got mountain views or something like that. Is that right?
Absolutely right. The market value or what you see on Zillow is reflecting, of course, the value of the land, which is not reflected here in the coverage amount of the home. How close are we to schools? What is the school district? Are you on 20 acres? Are you on waterfront? That's going to have a huge impact on the market value of your home. Yet here, we're concerned on the insurance side only with rebuilding the structure of the home, irrespective of the land that it sits on.
Cool.
Other structures, this is automatically provided at 10% of the coverage on the home. Many homes that are built today don't have a detached garage or a big pole barn, so this coverage might not be that important on a newer home, but traditionally it was designed as 10% of the coverage amount on the home, which would be applicable to maybe the detached garage. It also applies to the shed and the fence and the basketball hoop. Then the personal property coverage here, typically 70% of the coverage on the home. On this policy here, you see 443,000 of personal property coverage. That's for your family stuff. That's the clothes, the furniture, the sports equipment, the electronics, the kitchenware. All of that is your personal property. Whether it's kept in the basement, in the living room, in the garage, in the shed, your personal property applies to those items.
Now, Brian, what if I've got some kind of odd personal property? I've got this old card collection, or I've got this really expensive piece of jewelry that I inherited from a family member, or I've got a firearms collection that's got substantial value. Do I have to do anything about that? Because I imagine that personal property coverage, which encompasses a lot of different things, might want to know what items I have that make up that personal property in those cases.
Yep, that's a great point. And you will find limitations in that personal property coverage for certain classes of property. The most common ones you run into are going to be jewelry, right? So on this policy, also great example, Derek, we're going to find some specific coverage for jewelry. That's the most typical item that you will find specifically insured on a home insurance policy, because again, this personal property coverage, they're not going to say, hey, that's great, you have $443,000 of jewelry stashed away in your home. It doesn't work like that. This is designed for more of the typical household personal property type of items. If you have the real expensive or collectible type of things, bring that to our attention so we can help you understand. Is that included here? Does that need to be disclosed elsewhere? Do we need to take any action from a coverage standpoint on those items?
And Brian, one other question for you. I just got done Googling personal property, and according to Google, personal property includes things like my travel trailer and my boat and my dirt bike and my ATV and my snowmobile.
Yep.
Because I have $443,000 of personal property coverage, I feel like I'm in pretty good shape with regard to those things and the coverage provided for them. Is that right, or is there something else that I need to do in those cases?
Yeah, that's from a legal standpoint that those items are considered personal property, and from a state property law standpoint, from an insurance standpoint, those are not going to be included in your personal property, right? If it has a motor, probably not covered here unless it's the lawnmower or the snow blower. If it's the travel trailer, it's got wheels on it, it needs to be insured on its own. So the items you mentioned, like the recreational toys, the travel trailer, the dirt bike, the boat, the golf cart, those type of things need to have their own specific coverage. Those are not going to be included in the personal property coverage here, despite the fact that when you Google personal property, those items are considered personal property from a legal standpoint.
So if it's got wheels or a motor, or if it shines like a diamond, we should probably talk about it, correct?
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. All right, Derek, tell us about the personal liability coverage here on this policy. We see $1 million of this coverage. Give us a couple examples of when this would apply.
Yeah, well, we talked about bodily injury liability coverage on the auto insurance side of things. There was $1 million of coverage there as well, and that applied if someone was hurt or killed in an accident that you caused and they were suing you. This is very similar, but it's with regard to the ownership and use of your home. So if someone slips and falls on your driveway, or they fall off of your deck, or they happen to drown in your pool, this is going to apply to those inevitable lawsuits that result against you. However, a lot of people, just like that contents coverage that we talked about, that people erroneously think that it applies only within the home. Same thought is often the case with personal liability, but that's not true. The personal liability coverage applies to your ownership and use of your home, but it follows you away from the home as well. So maybe you're renting a hotel room in Chicago and you cause fire damage, or maybe you're up north having a bonfire and you happen to be the one that tosses something on there that causes a flare up and somebody gets burnt and they're suing you, or maybe you're responsible for watching someone else's children swim and one of them drowns. It's going to apply to those lawsuits against you as well.
Got it. That's helpful to know, Dee. Thank you. Uh, so moving down here to the policy deductible. On this policy here, you see a $2,500 deductible. This, of course, would be your share of any claim, right? The deductible is your portion before the insurance coverage is going to step in and then apply. Back in the good old day, you might have seen a $500 or a $1,000 deductible on a lot of home insurance policies. That placeholder has moved, right? You might still have a lower deductible like that, but many home insurance policies today now have at least a $2,500 deductible, which is what we're seeing here. We are fans of that. We're not big fans of filing small claims on a home insurance policy. It tends to kind of lead to long-term disaster or potential long-term challenges on the insurance side. So if you can stomach a higher deductible like 2,500 or even more, we are fans of that. You're going to pay less on the insurance coverage, and you're going to create stability in your insurance plan going forward, simply because you've got a higher deductible. You're not going to have a string of small claims being filed there.
Does that deductible always apply, even if it's something like an act of God?
It does, right?
Does.
Falling tree, hail damage, wind damage, fire, someone drives through the garage door, burglary, vandalism, all of those are going to have that deductible on the policy apply in that claim.
Okay. Got it. And we should mention, Brian, that a lot of insurance companies are introducing a special deductible for a wind or hail claim. In some cases, you'll see an all perils deductible, like shown here, as well as a wind or hail deductible. That wind or hail deductible might be a dollar amount. It might be a percentage of the dwelling coverage, but that's happening across the industry. So review your policy and just be aware that you might see two different deductibles on there depending on what caused that claim.
Yep, that's a great point. Now, here on this policy, you see some optional coverages here laid out. I'm not going to go into too much depth in this insurance review, simply because different insurance companies might have kind of an a la carte basis, like we're seeing here. They may have more of a package basis, so we won't go into much depth, but typically the optional coverages you're going to find are going to include replacement cost. They're going to include water backup coverage, especially if there's a finished basement. You're going to see ordinance or law coverage, especially if the home is more than about 10 years old. And then a couple of newer coverages. You could see equipment breakdown coverage, service line coverage, and undamaged siding or roofing coverage. These are all optional. You've probably had the conversation with with us or someone on our team about what's important, what's maybe necessary, or you could live without at your home. But if you'd like to scrub through those optional coverages, of course, our team would be happy to do that with you. Now, Derek mentioned previously some of the challenges or some of the limitations within that personal property coverage. We're going to see that included here on the next page. But before we get there, you're probably not refinancing given today's interest rate environment, but make sure that the mortgage information on your home insurance policy looks correct, right? This is probably where the invoice is being sent for payment. So if there's a mortgage listed, be sure that that rings a bell, right? Is that where your monthly mortgage payment is going? Yep. Okay. It's probably still good. But if you've received a notice or have been told that your mortgage has shifted to a new company, that's something that we should be aware of. So we can make sure the policy reflects that.
Brian, if I've paid off my mortgage, should I let my insurance agent know?
Please do. Yep.
And what if I pay it off and then I now, or even if I don't, but it seems to happen more when someone's paid off their mortgage, if I move the deed of my home into a trust or something like that because I'm doing some estate planning, does any change need to happen to my home insurance policy? A lot of times the attorney never mentions anything. So is that something that would be important?
It sure is. And what you're going to see here is your trust name needs to be listed here at the top of that policy. If your home has been deeded to a trust, typically as part of an estate plan, please let us know because the insurance plan needs to reflect that. Doesn't cost anything, doesn't change coverage, but it's a very important disclosure given some case law that happened in our state several years ago. Thank you for that note, Derek.
Sure.
So the add-ons here, we won't touch on these much, but you're going to see a jet ski included on this home insurance policy. You could probably put that on a separate boat policy if you wanted to, or separate watercraft policy. Sometimes you might embed it directly in the home insurance policy, like what's being done here. And then here's that jewelry coverage that Derek was talking about. On this policy, you see blanket coverage of $5,000, meaning it applies to any jewelry that you might own. And then there are two specifically listed items here that are also being insured. That way, you've got broader coverage and you have no deductible in the event of a claim. So if you have jewelry that's worth more than a few $1,000s, it's probably worth specifically insuring on your home insurance policy. Give that section a quick scrub. Make sure that there's nothing being missed there. It's inexpensive and it's easy to add. Make sure that that's up to speed. Derek, finally, the umbrella policy, right? Least expensive policy of your entire portfolio, but the most important in a lot of situations here, the umbrella policy is a very simple policy. What you will find in an umbrella is it's going to show a coverage amount at the top. In this example here, it's a $2 million umbrella policy. What does this do? It provides lawsuit protection over top of the auto and home insurance. So up above, Derek talked about the liability coverage in the auto insurance, which was at $1 million, the liability coverage in the home insurance, which was also at $1 million. Now we see an umbrella policy with $2 million of coverage in effect. What does that mean to me if this is my coverage here, Derek?
Yeah, well, if something goes horribly wrong on the road or at your home, or in one of those instances that I mentioned that might happen away from your home, like you cause a skiing accident while you're out west, and there's a large lawsuit against you, and that $1 million on the auto insurance or the $1 million on the home insurance is not enough to satisfy that entire lawsuit, the umbrella policy steps in and stacks another $2 million of coverage on top of that initial $1 million. So in this person's mind, they can simply remember that they've got $3 million of lawsuit protection for the ownership and use of their vehicles and the ownership and use of their home.
Perfect. And a typical question, how much umbrella coverage is enough? Hopefully you need none of it, right? None of us are ever planning on something going terribly wrong on the road or at our home or away from our home and being served a big, nasty lawsuit. But the general rule is the more coverage on the table, the more likely that other party is to sign, settle, take the insurance money, and go away so that you're not being pursued personally for that lawsuit. So that is your quick look at the umbrella policy as well. Again, premium in this example is under $400 for $2 million of lawsuit protection. That's about as good of bang for your buck as you're going to find in the insurance world. If you don't have an umbrella policy, make sure you're comfortable with that, right? We understand most people are never going to need it, But if you do need it, it makes all the difference in protecting your financial plan and your assets and your future earnings from potentially being lost in a lawsuit. So if that triggers any conversation or questions about your insurance portfolio and what umbrella policy you have or don't have, we would be happy to talk through that with you. Finally, that's your look at your 2025 insurance checkup. Things are always changing in our industry. We're working very hard to stay on top of them, keep you informed, keep you up to speed with what's happening, what are we suggesting, what are we seeing other clients doing, what are we projecting going forward. But we know you'll have questions. We know that there are things that need attention, or you're curious about this, or should we consider that? That's what our team is here for, right? We are here to serve you. We feel very privileged to work with you. We take that very seriously, and we don't take it lightly. Reach out to us anytime. All of us here at Boer Insurance Group, we value your business. We're here to help you manage your insurance plan, make sure that your family's protected and that your financial plan is best aligned with your insurance plan here to get the best value that we possibly can. So thank you so much for working with us. Thanks for viewing this 2025 insurance checkup. Any questions, any comments, any feedback, we'd love to hear it. We are always here to help. Thanks so much
Brian.
for joining us. Absolutely.